Welcome to Hello Chaos, the show where founders, innovators, and chaotic minds get real, get unfiltered about the mess, the magic, and the mayhem of entrepreneurship. I am Jennifer Sutton, or JJ as my friends and family call me. I'm your host and fellow work in progress. And today we have Andrew Oliver, a record producer, filmmaker, entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in entertainment and media. His content has been featured and used on national platforms, including HBO, MTV, PBS, HuffPost, American Songwriter, and more. He is the founder of Forthright Records, an original entertainment studio right here in Greenville, South Carolina, in our backyard. We don't get to talk to a lot of founders here, so I'm excited to have you on, Andrew. Welcome. Welcome to the chaos. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the chaos. I'm excited to be here.
Well, start out how did you get into entertainment and to start your own entertainment studio?
Yeah. So, in college, I was pretty determined at that point that I wanted to make a career in music. And
Oh,
so right after college, I hit the ground running. And at that time, my goal was to just play music professionally full time. And it took a number of years to get to that point, but I was able to get to that point with my brother. We started a band called Brother Oliver, and we used to tour the country full time, about 150 shows a year. It was very, very grueling, and it was hard work, but it was a lot of fun too. But my passion, as I got a little older, I started to realize my passion really is for entertainment as
mm.
a whole. Before even music, when I was in high school, I used to make videos and edit video, and that was kind of my first creative outlet.
What kind of videos were you doing? Just like goofy they were you like producing little stories, little mini shorts?
Yes to both of those things. So we used to do a lot of silly stuff. This was kind of the early days of YouTube, actually. I think, but when I started, it was before YouTube even existed, and then
Re-
it kind of came on the scene. We used to edit, silly little videos, pranks, and stuff like that. But then on the more serious side, we'd make a skate video every year. I used to be a
Ah,
skateboarder, and so
okay.
we'd film all year and just gather clips and footage for, a whole year, and then we'd edit together, a 20, 30-minute video, which was kind of like our Mona
Little
Lisa
short.
each year for ourselves, yeah, our little personal project. And so, I used to love that. I love that. I love the whole gathering of footage, editing to music, and I fell in love with that. So long story short, as I got a little older and after I'd been on the road touring for so many years, I started to shift a little more into entertainment from a broader standpoint. We had the opportunity to shoot our first feature film, How to Break a World Record. And we've just been running with it since then. So we're trying to build an original entertainment studio that can kind of be a flagship here in the Southeast, in areas like, the West Coast, like LA or New York City up north. And, or Atlanta, the bigger cities have, more of an original content presence,
Right.
whereas in our area, there's not quite as much. And so we'd love to be kind of the ones carrying that torch.
Now, why did you choose Greenville?
So I actually went to school here and I ended up staying here after I finished school. I was homeschooled growing up, and which had a lot of pros with all the free time, the ability to edit
Yeah.
and skate. And I had a lot more time than maybe some of the kids that went to school, but I wasn't as connected. I didn't have as big of a network. And so when I came here for school, I thought this was an awesome city.
Oh,
And I thought I'll just put some roots down here and see what happens.
yeah. Well, how is the ecosystem in terms of the entrepreneurship and innovation? Because there aren't a lot of like true entertainment studios here. You're kind of I think one of the first or very few. How have you been welcomed into the ecosystem?
I mean, I think the ecosystem has been great. The city has been really supportive of us over the years. It's a good sized city because it's big enough to have the resources and the people, but it's not so big that it's overwhelming as far as competition, I guess you could say.
Right.
Um, we can kind of be a big fish in a medium sized pond.
Right.
But it also comes with its challenges in the sense that it isn't that big of a city, and there isn't as many people. And what we do is inherently challenging because it is original entertainment. So we don't really have anything to piggyback off of.
Right. Do people understand what that means? Like when There's a lot of video studios, podcast studios. I think when people hear that versus original content or entertainment studio, kind of what the type of things that you're producing, do you have to educate people of what the differences
A
are? Is
little
that like
bit,
a
yeah.
challenge? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
how,
I
how do
do
you
have to explain it a lot of times.
what do you have to like? What's the trigger that gets them to go, oh, that's like? How would you describe that for others and for our listeners so that they know?
Well, yeah, I usually compare it to other video studios that focus more on the commercial side, right?
Okay.
So a lot of people think of video studios as someone you could hire to create an ad for your business.
Right.
And we do a little bit of that for sure, but it's not our focus. What we want to be doing is the original entertainment, and we're working towards a point where that's all we're doing. So
Right.
that's the goal.
And so when we talk about original entertainment, it's basically films, movies, TV shows, type of content.
Films, series, music, we do release a lot of music.
Okay.
That's where we started as a company, and it's still our biggest output, but the movies get the most attention.
Right. Is your brother still working with you and producing, or is he gone a different path?
No, we're working together. Him and me have been hand
So
in
it's still
hand.
brother Oliver.
It is. We've been partners since the beginning, and we have other great people involved as well. Dan Johnson, he's my partner in crime on the film directing side. He works with us on most of our visual arts work, and he's co-directed both of the feature films that we've released.
I love it. Is there a genre that you focus on? There's a I love going to the Reedy River Film Festival, and I know that there's a genre of like horror and thriller, but it's nice to see kind of there's a lot of breadth of content that's produced, like original content. So where do you fall, or does
It does vary, and what we want to do is varied. But the two feature films that we've done are both what we call reality documentaries. So they're documentaries officially, but they're shot in real time, and they have kind of a little bit of a reality TV feel.
okay?
So yeah, it's what we call reality documentaries.
Hey, founders, if your brand's feeling a little, well, chaotic, you're not alone. That's exactly why Bright Marketing created the Bright Starter Sprint. It's a 90-day jumpstart for founders who need to launch, level up, or maybe just hit reset with clarity and confidence. You'll get our full brand therapy sprint, a complete brand dossier with your story, audience personas defined, positioning all nailed down, plus your go to market, a high level go to market blueprint, your pitch deck, anthem video, basic website, and a founder personal style guide that gives you clarity of how you need to approach your own content on social media. And you also get a 60-day content roadmap for your brand to put everything in motion. It's everything a founder needs to go from what do we do next to we're ready to roll in just 90 days flat. We can get it done. This Bright Starter Sprint built for founders who want to start smart, not just fast. So if you're interested, send an email to hello@gobrightnow.com. That is hello@gobrightnow.com. I love it. Well, so as you've started this company and you're got the studio, you've got like a bricks and mortar, you got a team. What have you discovered about yourself as like a business owner, founder in this journey,
How
in this
long how long
process?
is the how long is this podcast? I No, it's every day you're learning about yourself. You should be at least. And it's been a roller coaster ride.
Mm,
A lot of what we do is so is so risk oriented, especially financially,
yeah.
where
Are
that's
you guys
something.
self financed or do you have to go and pitch to get the financing or investors in that? Or do you produce the content first and then pitch it?
But we've been self-financed to this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of chaos right there.
Right. But yeah, I've learned, because I've had some other business ventures that have done, decently well, and this business is just unique because, most of the time, you know, business the point of business is to make money, right? You want
Right.
to turn a profit, you want to get paid. And so, most businesses or products or services, like you come up with that formula that, the customer's willing to pay and you're willing to
Right.
to perform the service or whatever, and everybody's happy. Whereas with the original entertainment, there's no promise that we're
Mm,
going to see the financial reward. There's a risk there. And
right.
so it's very different where, 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2 in this lane. And so you really, for me, it's like I have to really know why I'm doing it
Yeah.
because it's not always for the money,
Right.
or I'll go crazy. If I'm only thinking about the money, then I'll go
That's
crazy.
right. Is it for storytelling and for just like uh feeding your creative soul?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'm an artist at my core.
Mm,
And so we do this because we love to do it. That's for sure. And obviously I want to have a successful business.
right.
Of course, there's that full side of my brain that is in the spreadsheets and looking at the dollars and cents and trying to make sure everything's staying above board. So that part is obviously always a reality.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of makes it fun.
Yeah.
It keeps you on your toes for
That's
sure.
right. Doesn't get boring, for
It's not
sure.
boring. It's not
Not boring.
boring.
So what's the biggest thing like that you've really learned that you said, "My God, this is, I wish," or maybe something that you wish other people recognized more of you, that you've kind of self-discovered, but it's not really a known thing that you want people to know?
Oh, it's a good question. I feel like I bear it all online. I feel like people know too much about me sometimes.
Are you one that's just like puts out information just left and right of like, let me tell you what I ran into today. Is
I'm not I'm not the worst. I don't do it as much as some, but I use social media and I like creating content. But I think what I just said would be interesting for some folks to hear as far as something they might not realize is because it is kind of funny the spectrum of how people view us. Because some people they say, "Oh, you're making movies, you must be automatically making just millions and millions of
right,
dollars." And then other people, they think that you're sleeping in your van, and so people don't know what to think.
right.
And hopefully both of those people will end up being right. Cause I did used to sleep in my van when we were touring. Now I just got to make the millions and millions.
That's right. We're on the journey to do that. So, what's been the most rewarding part doing this and starting this company?
I think providing experiences not only for myself, but for everyone who's involved and everyone who gets to have a little piece of it. I think that's the most fulfilling because these projects, especially with the movies, is so much bigger than, obviously just me or my
Right.
brother or Dan. There's so many people involved.
Hmm,
Even down to like the music, we use a lot of our own music in our movies, but we also source music for certain scenes where maybe we didn't have the song that felt perfect in-house. We'll go and source that. And I always try and source it from indie artists or other local artists. And
right.
and it's just cool to give them that opportunity and so that they can be on that platform and
Yeah.
and have that experience and share that with their family, their friends. And so those kind of moments where sometimes I feel like Santa Claus in those moments where I get to come down the chimney and give a gift in a way,
Yeah.
so that's kind of fun when someone gets to have a great experience just by being a part of what we've got going on.
So, were there any big myths or preconceived notions that when you walked in to go, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build this entertainment studio here in Greenville, and I was thinking it was going to be this, and it wasn't. What was the was there any kind of moments like that you had of, yeah, this is not what I thought it was going to be.
Well, yeah, we've had plenty of those. When we started, we thought it was just going to be music all the way.
Okay.
We had a lot of success in music. We started, bands. Just next thing you know, we were opening for the Steve Miller Band for a sold out Peace Center,
Wow.
and playing some of the biggest stages you can imagine. And we thought, for a while, I thought that was just the path. We're
Right.
going to, the record label and the music, that's all we're going to do. But then, as we started to dabble with the other things and realize how much we enjoyed, not just the music, then, I start to wonder, well, should we only be doing movies or should we only be doing music? Should I be doing more of my business stuff or, but
Right.
so, kind of coming to grips with the fact that it's like you don't necessarily have to choose. Some people will say you have to choose or should choose one, but I know I wouldn't be happy if I just did one thing all day, every day for years and years and years for me
Right.
personally. Um, so when I realized like, hey, we don't have to just put ourselves into a single box. We can kind of create our own thing.
Yeah.
Our business is an extension of us as artists in a way. It can be whatever we want it to be. We just got to make it work.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you guys have created the entertainment studio to be an umbrella of all those components
Exactly.
of art and creation. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was kind of an aha moment. It was like, you know what? This is who we are.
Yeah. Let's just, it's funny. It's like we work with so many small businesses and I think that's a misperception out there within kind of the small business owner of they feel like they have to fit in some kind of box
Mhm.
or whether they've bought a franchise or they've created something from scratch. It's like, let me see if I can find the box I need to fit in versus what really makes small business and scalable businesses is when you take what's unique about them, the owner or the vision of what they're delivering. That's what sets them apart from the competition. It's what makes them break out in the category or create a category that's never been, that's not there yet. And then that's how they scale because then people go, I see what you're doing and I want to support. So, that's just talking to so many small businesses over the years, that's the one things that we have to always break that mindset of embrace the uniqueness and
Absolutely.
the differences and the passions that come from that, that come from within. I'm glad that you have already discovered that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels good when you,
Yeah, the
and
aha moments are wonderful, aren't they? Were there any other aha moments that you had that were really revolutionary that changed how you either looked at the business or maybe you had to pivot beyond just okay, we've now made this big umbrella. Were there any other?
yeah, but I've had, plenty of wins and losses, and thankfully, I think maybe slightly more wins, but who's keeping track? I don't know. I'm still here, so
You're
you
still
know, I'm
breathing?
on the services side. This would have been 4 or 5 years ago. On the services side of the business, my brother and I, for years, we had offered a number of different client services for
Hmm,
creatives, which is an extension of our business.
right.
And has been kind of the cash flow arm of the business as we grow the original content side. But early on, we used to have a handful of clients every month. And we always, for whatever reason, just kind of assumed that was the most we could handle.
Hmm,
We always thought we were like at max capacity.
right.
And I remember it was, I think 2020, right around the pandemic, where I
Oh,
just told
hell
my,
break loose.
right. Well, I told my brother, I'm like, well, we keep saying like this is our max capacity, but like we haven't really tested that.
Hmm,
So like let's push this thing. Let's see how many clients we can adequately service. Let's push it till the train comes off the tracks, and then
right.
obviously then we'll course correct. And it turns out we could facilitate 20x the amount of business we were doing,
Right.
and that was a game changer, just pushing ourselves to our
Just changing the
limits.
mindset of
Absolutely.
yeah. And so what did that do to your business? Did you have to, when you said you had a course correct of adding people, processes, systems, did all those have to go so we can keep scaling? How did that affect your operations?
Well, at that time in 2019, 2020, we were just barely surviving from a financial perspective.
Hmm,
And after we had that change of mindset, we realized how much business we could do in that lane. And for about 3 or 4 years, we sprinted. And that financially gave us a leg up to where it opened the doors where we could do the movies and we could fund all
right.
the things that we're doing now. And so it was a blessing.
Right.
That season really opened the doors and created the path for us to do what we're doing now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Did you have you faced any I call it the oh shit moments of the like friction challenge that you were like, how are we gonna that really shaped and changed you? Any?
Yeah, well, so during that time, we were on such a hot streak, it felt like everything we were touching was
You're
turning
like,
to
we're
gold.
winning.
Yeah, it felt like everything we touched turned to gold at that time, which was great. You know, we
Yeah.
were having wins and wins and wins, and we launched a SaaS software. This was, something new. We had an idea. We funded. It was pretty expensive to build, and it was just a little outside of our wheelhouse. And it
Mm.
was, a good idea, but it just didn't take, and we didn't have the bandwidth to give it the attention it needed, and it ended up, failing.
Right.
And that was kind of a moment to remind us like, hey, not everything you do is just going to automatically work out.
Right.
And it was a reminder to really be careful about what you jump into. And I'm all about taking the leap and taking the risk,
Right.
obviously. But this particular thing was just a little outside of our area of expertise as well. I think it was just a good moment to remind us like, hey, when you're winning, enjoy it, because like not everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes. Is that was or not nice, but it was the oh shit moment where it's like, okay, we gotta, we gotta be careful and be smart.
Yeah. Did you just drop it or did you exit and sell it to somebody else picked up the ball and ran with it? Or was it just kind of like it just fizzed out?
It kind of fizzed out. It's still, we could revive it. We still own it, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of on the shelf right now. And who knows? I mean, maybe it
Right.
could
Maybe
be
it was just not the right time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you never know. You never
You
know.
never know. If what would you do differently though if you had to look back with anything, not just that SaaS product, but anything? And would you do anything different or things that you know now? Would you go, man, I wish I knew this lesson or whatever? I would have applied that and it could have just really changed something. Do you ever have moments like that?
Yeah, I am happy with where we're at now, so I wouldn't go back and change history, but obviously there was mistakes made and things I wish I could do better and lessons I've learned looking back. For us, well, one thing I mentioned at the top, I used to skateboard. I was actually
Yeah.
very serious skateboarder at an amateur level in high school.
Oh, wow.
I ended up, walking away from it, which is fine. I don't necessarily regret that, but over the years, I wish that I had at least kept more of it as a part of my life,
Hmm.
because it, there's been times where I wish that I could, step back into it a little more heavily. But because, if you take 15 years off of skateboarding, like
Right. Your
if you
body's
just,
not going to bounce back in that.
right. Whereas even if I had just done it a little bit, even just a handful of times a month, it would have kept my body more in place to where I could revive it.
Mm.
And so I view that more as like a principle or a lesson where, there are things that we've been frustrated by or things that aren't working out. Maybe it's not the right time, like we were just talking about.
Right.
Make sure you give things a chance, that if you love something, don't necessarily throw the whole thing away.
Yeah.
You just, because you never know when that passion might come back, or
Yeah.
don't burn a bridge with one of your own passions, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then and if you can reignite it in some way. Like I think don't find fear in that. Really.
Right. Yeah. Because there's
Especially if you're missing it and you're like your body's not just your mind, but your body's craving it.
right.
Um,
Yeah. It's like the live performance element of what we do, like with Brother Oliver, we still play a lot of shows.
mm,
And even though that's not the driving part of our business right now, just kind of along that mindset, it's like we're always going to keep that going, because it's like, why would we ever just completely walk away from that when it was such a big part of our life and
right.
something we love so much? So we never would completely walk away from that. But I wish I could have applied that to my younger self
Yeah.
as a skateboarder.
You still got to feed that.
Yeah.
Feed that love. Speaking of your brother, how is it working with your brother? Do you guys have defined roles in? Do you guys I mean, you always find that it's hard to work with family, whether it's spouse, mom or dad. We've had a couple of founders and they're dealing with parental things. How is it with your brother?
But we've been lucky. It's been great. They say never work with family and things like that, but it's worked out well for us. We do have defined roles. The roles oftentimes define themselves. We've built this from the ground up, and now we have more experience. We're a little older. When we enter into a new part of the business, we discuss, we plan, we assign roles, etc. Over initially, as we built this, the roles just kind of assigned themselves, and
Mm.
we each kind of gravitated to what made most sense. And
Because they're based on skill set or
exactly,
on that.
exactly.
Where does his like? Where's your skill set, passions lie, and where's his? Because if you guys are both musicians, you're both into obviously creative artists. Where does the line get drawn?
Yeah, I'm like the big picture, big idea personality. He
Mm,
has, big ideas too. He has those traits as well. But I'm usually like the visionary type, and then he's kind of the grease of the gears that
mm.
makes it happen on the ground level, if that makes sense. But we're both on
Yeah.
the ground, we're both down there getting our hands dirty, but
Right.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Who's the one that's I'll call it the more the business person than the numbers? Is that you that has to go like, all right, I gotta be the sourpuss on numbers, or is that both
Probably
of you guys are both in there at the same time?
Probably me, but he's also, he's very financially savvy and he
Mm.
likes to be in the spreadsheets. And I'd say we're both that
You're
way.
both in
We're
there.
both very realistic about it.
That's unique. Because one person's usually like, I hate it. I don't want to be in it.
No, we're both,
Whoever draws the short straw, that
and
kind
we're
of.
both always looking at the numbers and making sure everything's checking out.
Yeah. So you talked about like your one of the biggest kind of lessons of the SaaS product, kind of putting that on the shelf. What's one of the biggest wins you've had?
Well, I think financially, the single biggest win was what I described in
The
2020 when we realized we could literally 20x our output on the services side. And we didn't even realize it till we did it. Um, Financially, that's been our biggest win. Just overall, my biggest pride and joy has been the films.
mm,
How to Break a World Record being our first, and then Paperweight, which just released on Prime, being our second. Those have been the most fun and the most fulfilling projects I've ever been a part of,
really.
for
So what
sure.
was the first one that you said? It was the how to.
It's called How to Break a World Record. And what it was about is my brother Steven, his Guinness World Record, he played his mandolin for over 27 hours straight.
What?
Yeah, and so the movie is hilarious. I tell people it's a family-friendly version of a Jackass film. And so it's a documentary that in real time follows that journey from
Okay.
idea to execution to the aftermath, and it's very entertaining.
And obviously, was that all done here in Greenville area?
It was.
Okay. And then what was the other one? You said it was
Our second feature film is called Paperweight,
Paperweight.
and that movie answers the question, what would happen if you took an average guy off the street and put him in the octagon with a professional MMA fighter?
What?
I was unfortunately the average guy. And
What?
so I had to go into the life of the UFC
Oh
and
my.
do the things they do. And then at the end of the film, I had to get in the octagon and scrap it out for a few rounds. And I definitely broke a rib.
I was gonna say, how long did it take you to recover from that?
The rib, a few weeks for sure.
Emotionally? How like
Emotionally, I was on cloud nine, believe it or not. It was so much fun. So in the Greenville area, some people know, some people don't. There's two UFC fighters, Weston Wilson, who
mm,
is he's newly signed to UFC. He's had a few fights. He's on the kind of up and up. And then Steven Wonderboy Thompson, who's a UFC veteran. He's a Hall of Fame type
I
guy.
love how you were like, you knew he was gonna be a veteran when you put the Wonder Boy in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, everybody knows Wonderboy. And so both of those guys were kind enough to facilitate and be a part of the film. And yeah, it was just an awesome time.
Was that all done here as well
It
in
was
Greenville?
in
Oh.
Simpsonville and Greenville. A
And
lot
then
of it,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, a lot of it was shot at Upstate Karate, which is the gym, Wonderboy's home gym.
Okay. And then how like for you to did you have to train? Like how long was that film because you said it's like it's real documentary style. What is that like 6 month process, a year following you to get prepared? Or was it more like, hey, I'm just gonna wing it? Like I'm not gonna
I winged it more than I should have, but The film was shot over about a year's time. The
Okay.
actual training sections and then the fight section, that was shot over about a 2-month window. Definitely not enough time to take a non-fighter and turn him into a fighter from scratch. But that was the point of the film, though, is to show that, the person on their couch watching the fights at home, screaming at the TV, saying they could do it better.
Yeah.
The point of the film was kind of to be like, yeah, you probably couldn't do it better.
Oh my
They
God.
most certainly could not.
Right. So I'm curious. So you and your brother and your team, you guys come. How do you come up with those ideas? Like, what was the spark to that?
Well, that one, I can't remember the original idea or where it came from, other than the fact that I had the idea of originally doing it with a boxer. So at some
Okay.
point, I was like, what if I just like got in the ring with a boxer and like we just made a piece of content about that? And what happened was I met a friend of mine. His name's Matt Hannon, and we were just like having a beer. And I told him about that idea, and he was like, "Well, believe it or not, I actually work with 2 UFC guys." And he introduced me, and he's like, "You should pitch it to them, see if you do it with a UFC fighter." And
Right.
I pitched it to Weston Wilson, and he thought it was an awesome idea, and he said, "Let's do it." So it
And then it
happened.
gets done. And then you guys produce this, and then how do you get it onto like Amazon? Do you have to pitch it to, is there like a team over there at Amazon, like entertainment studio that you pitch and then they distribute it? How does that work?
Yeah, so we work with a distributor. So
Okay.
when we finish the film, we pitch it to distributors to sign a deal with them. We had an agent for both films, so he kind of handled that.
Okay.
And so his job is to take the film, send it to all these different big distribution companies, and then, hopefully you get a few offers, you get some interest, and we did,
Right.
and then kind of take the best offer. And so we signed a deal with a company called Buffalo 8,
Okay.
which is an awesome company. They've been great. They've released a lot of big name films, work with a lot of A-list type actors and
Are
things like
they
that.
based in LA or
They are based in LA.
okay.
And
Okay.
so we signed our deal with them. They've been great. So they're the ones that actually do the negotiations with the platforms like
Okay.
Prime.
Nice. That's and I'm sure they don't take just anybody. Like they are to have on their roster.
Right. Right. Yeah, we were pretty excited to be a part.
And then what are you working on now?
Well, we're trying to really focus on, promoting this new movie and lean into that. So that marketing run will last probably anywhere from 6 months to a year for the life of that release. We're trying to be, last time we released our movie, we were in the process of also filming this second one. And so we're like, we're not going to do that again. We're going to release this movie and not also be producing another one. We're
Right.
going to take a moment to exhale and enjoy it and promote it and have some fun with it. But we are scheming, of course. We've got some other ideas, maybe looking at a potential series. And then we've got 2 or 3 candidates for another feature. But
Nice.
we haven't
Nice.
decided which one's going to be the next
I
move.
love it. Did the what do you call it? Wow, I'm trying to think of what I'm the completely blank my word. The writer strike. Did that affect you guys or the actor strike? Did that affect you guys at all?
You
As
know,
more of an independent studio?
I can't remember exactly when that was. I think that was
It was
right.
like was it 2022, 2023?
I think it was 2022. That
Yeah.
sounds right. It was right after. It was right. I think it ended right before we started our first feature, or we started our first feature right before the strike
So
ended. It
you
was like it was very close,
right.
and
You're like, "Woo, don't have to deal with that."
yeah, it was kind of weird. We weren't sure how to deal with that because we weren't plugged into that guild or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, I think it didn't really overlap. If it overlapped, it was only slightly.
Well, that's good. That's good. All right. So if you had to look back at your journey, what word describes the entrepreneurial founder journey?
I would say persistent, persistent.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the next chapter, you know, the next movie in your series, what word describes that?
Enjoyable, I'd say,
Okay.
not that the last ones haven't been, but like we're really, we've had the privilege and the opportunity to grind through a few of these movies. And
Yeah.
so we're being picky about like what we choose to do next because we want to just do what really is deeply satisfying. And
Yeah.
so that's really our main criteria is, one, obviously, is it going to be interesting for viewers? Is it going to be a good product for viewers? But do we want to do this? Is this going to be fun?
Right.
Is this going to be something that we wake up excited about every day for 18
Yeah.
months?
Because you get to
And
do this. You don't have to do it. Right?
exactly.
That
And
kind of
so
mindset.
whatever we do next, I guarantee you will be enjoyable.
Like, by golly. Okay, so if we met a year from now, what would we be celebrating? If I took you out for a beer next summer, what would we be celebrating?
I would hope the successful run of Paperweight.
All right. Keep it going. If it stays on Amazon, is it then it gets picked up? Can it go to other streamers?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon Prime. It can get licensed by other bigger
Okay.
platforms. So like, you know, in theory, Netflix or HBO or fill in the blank could license it, and
Yeah.
it'll stay on Prime in that scenario for rent or purchase. But yeah, it's at time of recording, in theory could get signed
Could be
for an
picked up.
exclusive streaming deal. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you're pretty you're a chill guy, but what keeps you up at night? Anything stress you out?
Most of the stuff that keeps me up shouldn't keep me up, and I'm just not doing a good job of managing those demons, I guess. I always have to battle with, feeling like I'm not doing enough, but I
Oh,
know pushing myself. And so, as I get older, you become more aware of, balancing your life and
right.
not just running yourself ragged. And so that's probably the number one thing is like, am I doing enough, or is there something I'm missing, or, just those kind
Yeah.
of thoughts that I'm sure most founders deal with.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing a good job of managing my psyche, as it were, I should be
Right.
sleeping better.
What do you do to manage those? I always ask people of, everyone has their routines, their disciplines, their, outlets for either release or keeping their mindset kind of sharp. Do you have any tips or tricks that you like to share that's working for you?
Yeah, I think just trying to zoom out and just like realize that when, something's not going well, or if you make a mistake, you know, I try and imagine like, how am I going to feel about this in like 5 years or
Mm,
1 year? And most of the time it's like, well, I'll probably not even remember this. Or
yeah.
if I do remember, I'll laugh, like it's
Right.
like, so I often think like when I'm really irritated or really frustrated, I'll be like, how am I going to feel a year from now? It's like, well, I won't care at all about this. It'll
Yeah.
be past, it'll be, whatever. So I try and zoom out and think about it
I
from that
like that. The
perspective.
zoom out theory.
Yes.
The zoom out trick. In our office, we deal with, you have clients, we have clients, what gets people worked up, sometimes we're just like, we're not curing cancer here. We're like creating, we're writing, we're producing. Like why are you all worked up over this? So yeah, it's the let's zoom out. It's not gonna it's tomorrow it's not gonna be a big deal. Even
Right.
and definitely not 5 years from now. That's I like that. We need to code zoom out here in our office. I love it. Who's been your greatest cheerleader?
I mean, I would have to say, I mean, my brother, my partner,
Yeah.
and, him and me have been in the trenches. We've had to cheer each other on to just because, I mean, we're human. We get down
You
in the
guys were
dumps
sleeping in
about,
a van together.
yeah, we were. And we both have amazing wives who are super supportive, amazing families that are supportive and have grown more supportive over the years. And yeah, we've got a lot of good cheerleaders. I'm fortunate, that I've had for my brother, and we're able to lean on each other, and we have that family bond so we can, chew each other out, or
Right.
glaze each other up. It's whatever we got to do to keep things moving.
Are other people that are in your orbit, whether it's on your team or in your greater kind of creative community, do people get intimidated by you guys, like your bond and anything? Do you sense any of that of like, oh, those guys are close?
I think people know we're close. I don't, at least from my vantage point, I don't think people are intimidated by it. The core members of our crew, like Dan, for example, like, I mean, he's in tight, we're talking almost 24/7, the three of us. And yeah, it's a family operation. So
Yeah,
even the ones who aren't blood, they kind of become family.
that's
And
right.
so
They get in. They get in your circle, right?
right. I'd like to think we're pretty chill to work with, and people hopefully aren't intimidated,
And
but
enjoy it. So, what's the best piece of advice you can give our listeners of other founders and business owners that either you've been given that you want to pass on or things that you've learned?
One thing I would say, and one thing I've struggled with, and a piece of advice helped me was a lot of times in business, you have to make decisions, obviously. And sometimes it's clear, like, oh, this is clearly the right decision. But
Right.
many times it's like, it's not. You can do all the pros and cons, you can analyze it a million different directions, and it's just a toss up.
Right.
And for someone like me, I struggle with that because then that fear of making the wrong decision is something that keeps me up at night.
Right.
I can't remember where I heard it, but it was basically like, at the end of the day, make a decision.
Yeah.
So don't have that analysis paralysis. Like, sometimes you just aren't gonna know. It's not gonna be
Just move
clear.
forward. Right.
Exactly. It's not
Yeah.
always gonna be written in the skies, but you have to make decisions and just keep moving forward. And so I've been trying to embrace that because I'm someone who can get that analysis paralysis where
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like,
We can all get in that trap. That is, um, and that's a good reminder of just make a decision. Like just keep moving. And we've tried to, at least for me, I've tried to take out fail in my vernacular. I've just put it's either a win, a gift, or a lesson. There is no failure. It doesn't exist anymore. It's just a lesson learned.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because yeah, I got burdened down with years ago of that. I'm so afraid to either be seen as a failure or to fail at something, and it can cripple, freeze, that whatever functional freeze. So yeah, just the make a decision, move forward. I love it. So I'm gonna ask you like an off the wall question. So what are you watching besides your own content? What is your go to series right now? Are you watching anything?
Well, I just watched the Quarterback series on Netflix. I'm a big
Mm.
Detroit Lions fan. I love me some Jared Goff, and he was one of the quarterbacks. So of course I had to watch that. I did a remix of the Jared Goff chant. For Detroit fans will know what I'm talking about. It's a remix song on Spotify that has been kind of popular with some of the fan base. But yeah, I'm a huge Detroit fan. So I've been watching that. I watched a show on Netflix called Untamed. It
Mm.
was okay. It started better, and then I don't know. I lost a little bit of interest, but
Right.
um, I also watch a lot of like nostalgia content. I'm a bit of a sucker for nostalgia. Watching some
Like what?
Even Stevens lately.
Okay. I was like, like 80s movies and all that kind of stuff,
For me, so
or 90s, early
I'm
aughts.
32, so the early 2000s, the late 90s. That's kind of like my window of
Yeah.
nostalgia.
I just dated myself right now. Although I'll say my kids that are teenagers, they are totally into the 80s movies. They're watching like, the Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Breakfast Club, and
Those are great movies.
yeah. What's your favorite genre?
Probably thriller. I like documentaries a lot though.
You're a documentary.
If it's riveting, if it's meaningful subject matter, all in.
Yeah. I love it. I've enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you hanging out with us today. And these things go so fast. But before we go, where can people connect with you, find out more about how they can support you, learn about what you do? Give them all the stuff.
Yeah, so our company is called Forthright Records. So you go to forthrightrecords.com. That's FORTHRIGHT. My name's Andrew P. Oliver. You can look me up just by my name. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Always happy to connect. So
Very
that's how
good.
you can find me.
Excellent. And we'll all be watching for Paperweight on Prime.
Yeah, go watch Paperweight,
Go watch
Amazon Prime.
Paperweight on Amazon Prime. I'm excited. Well, that's a wrap on today's chaos. Thank you, Andrew, for hanging out. But the journey doesn't stop here. If you found yourself not along with Andrew or going, yes, I feel the same, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a 5-star review on Spotify. You can dig deeper into founder resources and more episodes over at orangewip.com, and that's orangewip.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay scrappy, and remember, we are all a work in progress. We'll see you next week.